Hey there, it's Mandee Montana. Are you taking great care of your skin? You know I use great products. I take my vitamins and I drink plenty of water, but I could be better about applying sunscreen daily and making sure my skin is protected against premature aging. What about you? Well, I've got great news. I have a solution. It's the new Premium Diamond Glow Treatment at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. I love it. I went recently and it exfoliates and hydrates your skin at the same time. Amazing, right? My skin feels so soft and silky after. You have to try it. If you've never had a facial before, they have different options at Hand and Stone, like hydrating and brightening. But if you're struggling with dark spots, hyperpigmentation, sun damage, sallow skin, enlarged pores, or maybe oily skin, this is the treatment for you. If you want your skin to glow and look and feel amazing, book the Diamond Glow. Schedule now by visiting Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com. Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, hosted by Mandee Montana. A podcast that celebrates women, their stories, their struggles, and ability to overcome. Conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, and courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast. Presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. With over 20 massage therapists and 6 estheticians, certified and trained in multiple protocols, you can get an affordable massage or facial located right here in the East Texas area. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in the Cumberland Shopping Center in Tyler or online at handandstonetyler.com. Welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. I'm Mandee Montana with special guest today, Dr. Lindsey Overstreet, one of my very best friends.
Hello.
Hello.
It's nice to be back.
I'm so glad you're joining me again today. We've got an interesting topic planned for you, but first, we want to talk about Taylor Swift.
We sure do.
Because we like Taylor Swift.
I'm not a Swiftie.
You're not?
No, I'm not. Like, I couldn't name all her albums.
Well, I can't either.
All her, and I don't, I'm not going to pay $1 gazillion to go to the tour or whatever, but I respect Taylor Swift. And I think she's a great songwriter and a great business person. And, I think a philanthropist and a good person. So I like her, but I wouldn't say that I'm a true Swiftie. I don't think it would be fair to the Swifties.
Oh, well, I would agree with that. I'm not either. I'm not either in that regard. And I honestly did not really care for her music when she was a country music artist. That's just my personal tastes. I like a lot of different types of music. I found it's probably the stage of life that I was in and the stage of life that she was in at the same time. They were just, they did not align.
They clashed.
When she released 1989, that album, she won me over because I really liked the sound of it. I liked the songwriting, and I happened to be working for Mix 93.1 at the time. And when she launched that tour in North America, she gave us 4 tickets to go see her show in Shreveport. And I had never been to one of her shows before. Mm-hmm. And I was blown away by a few things. From the showmanship standpoint, she's brilliant. It was like going to a musical. Mm-hmm. I mean, the theater production of her sets was just, it was over the top. It was fabulous. But we did a meet and greet beforehand. Mm-hmm. And the way she did that, too, was just over the top amazing. I mean, you and I met Ed Sheeran together.
Yeah.
After I had met Taylor Swift. Mm-hmm. And it was a totally different experience. When we met Ed, we waited in line at the soccer stadium to go into a weight room, I think is where it was. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what you would call it.
It was not an important setting.
30 seconds probably.
Yeah, he took a selfie with both of us, and he was kind, and I dropped everything on the floor, and he kindly helped us pick it up. And I think I asked him about the Texas humidity. It was quick.
Yeah.
But when I went to the meet and greet with Taylor Swift, she had this it was at a stadium too. It was at CenturyTel Center in Louisiana. But she had it set up with fabric that looked like it was a loft apartment in New York. She had food set up for everyone.
What?
There was Diet Coke and pizza, like her favorite stuff. There was a photo booth, and all of the guests were invited to be in this setting, milling around and talking to each other. And then after we had been there for maybe 10 minutes, Taylor Swift entered the room with her team, and she worked the room. So rather than all of us standing in line in the uncomfortable heat, she put us in this wonderful setting where we could hang out and be comfortable with each other. And then she came and moved through the room with her team, took a professional photo with each of us that was later emailed to us.
Wow.
And gave us personalized signed one of her photos for each of us, and had a short interaction. I mean, it was probably about the same length of time as Ed, but she had put the time and effort into the setting and thought about what would make us feel great.
Yeah.
I mean, so like to me, that was such a professional, thoughtful, like sophisticated way to do things. And my respect for her just went through the roof. I was like, wow, this is first class.
Yeah.
This is how she treats people. And then after that, she sent Larry, my boss, a handwritten thank you note for coming.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's, and she pays her dancers and her musicians really well, and nobody has a bad word to say about Taylor aside from like the media, right? Or like certain people in the media.
But not people on her staff that work with her.
No, not people who actually know her, including Ed Sheeran, actually.
Yeah.
I just saw an interview with him talking about how like incredible she is.
Because he opened for her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She helped him really get famous in the US. I was a big fan of Ed.
I remember.
Before, when he was sort of famous in the UK and like not very many people here knew about him. But Taylor like really got him a wide audience because she recognized how talented he is.
And he is. He's exceptional.
I think she does that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So like, why are we talking about Taylor Swift? Well, did you read the article that was written about how she is a bad role model for children?
I did not read the article, but I saw a headline about it and I thought, this doesn't make any sense. But I do know that in American pop culture, we have a tendency to love an underdog and hate people when they're on top. And Taylor would probably tell you that she's experienced the waves of this because she has been through it. She's been at the top of country. Then when she switched to pop, she was kind of an underdog. And then she kind of had a lot of success. And then she didn't have so much success with Reputation and the Kanye and the Kim. And so like she's had to ride the waves of it. So I'd imagine she's just kind of like, next.
Oh, yeah. I doubt she cares about it.
No, but we care about it because...
I care because I think it's... Well, the premise of the article was essentially that she's a 34-year-old woman who isn't married and doesn't have children, and therefore, and has focused on her career and is selfish, and therefore, little girls shouldn't be looking up to her because that's not what women are supposed to do. That was essentially.
I have so many problems with that. And I think we were discussing this a little bit before we hit the record button because you mentioned it to me and you're like, should we mention this? And I was like, mm-hmm. And my first question to you was, did a man write this article?
Of course.
Of course. And this is a broad statement. This is not true of all men, but it's true of a lot of men that they lack the self-awareness of the gender disparity in a big way. And, it's what they've been taught to believe, and it's what our cultural system is. So I'm not angry at any particular person about it. I just think if we don't talk about it, we can't be better.
Exactly. I think actually it's a societal problem that we have, because I think many of us, I think both of us, certainly, and many, many women in this country have grown up thinking that our worth is based on marriage and children and being in service to a husband and to children. And that somehow, if we're not doing that, we are less of a woman, we are less of a human, right? And I think that to me is what gets under my skin. Because yeah, of course, whoever this guy is, I don't even know what his name was. Like,
Yeah, I don't want to give him that popularity.
No, I don't either. And he's just spouting off what
Yeah.
a good chunk of people believe and are taught to believe, whether it is through their families or their churches or their.
Oh, I think it's subconscious. I think it's just, it's built into our culture in such a deep way that we all, unless we have a conversation about it, we're all unaware of it.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, it's not a conscious thing. Like I didn't consciously go around thinking, oh, I'm such a selfish human because I don't have children. But I was once told that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was told that in my 20s, or actually, it wasn't told to my face. It was something that was said behind my back by a coworker, actually another woman, who claimed that I was a selfish human and that I didn't have any kind of understanding or empathy for what her life was like because I wasn't married and didn't have children. And at this point in my life, I was probably about 26 or 27 years old. So I lacked a lot of things at that age. I'm just going to be honest. I lacked some maturity and some empathy for sure. I don't know that I was actually selfish though.
Yeah.
Or self-centered
and I don't
in that way, like in a negative way. And so I've really, but it sat with me. I mean, how many years? That's 12 years ago.
Yeah.
More.
Well, and I think it sits with most women. And it's a question, it's something that people do say. Mm-hmm. And it's sometimes like, I'm like, you have the audacity to say that out loud, but people do. You know, I was actually told to my face, and this was more than 10 years ago, actually, you're not married yet. You're getting kind of old. Ooh. And it's something I still think about. Like, it's something that Did
you want to say, I'm not living in a Jane Austen novel, thank you very much?
Well, you know, when this was said to me, so it was actually probably 15 years ago. I was in grad school and I was like, well, I'm becoming a doctor.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who believe that none of that matters. Like your education, your career, your art, your whatever your talents are, don't matter if you're not reproducing. And I think it is a cultural problem, a societal problem that we have that actually leads people to be in really unhealthy relationships, abusive even relationships, because they think they have to, you know, they think this is the right thing to do. And I've seen it with patients, I've seen it with friends, and then, you know, with kids. And I love kids. I think if you want to have kids, have kids. But you hear what I said, if you want to.
Yes.
Right? If that's your desire and you have the capacity to raise children, I think that's amazing. That's something I intend to do. It's something that I want, like really deeply.
It doesn't define you.
Right. It doesn't define me. It's not the only thing in the world that I have to offer. And I think that's really it, right? Like, we're here on the Celebrating Women podcast. Mm-hmm. And what I think is so important is for all women to be celebrated, regardless of their marital status, their motherhood status, right? Because a lot of people also can't get pregnant. There's a lot of factors that go into why someone doesn't have kids, and also just not wanting kids or not liking kids. Really good reason not to have kids.
Right? I have a friend who I won't call out her name. She'll know it's her though if she listens, that has told me she's a mom. But she's told me, she's like, if I had known what I was getting myself into, I would not have done it. would not have done it. Her child is now an adult, has faced tremendous challenges of his own making. And as much as she loves him and loves her grandchildren, she's like, if I had it to do over, I don't think I was cut out to be a mom. And what I mean by that is she's very kindly loved me through all thought processes of, do I want kids? Do I not want kids? Whatever it is that you want is what you should do. Don't let somebody tell you you shouldn't do it or you should. You should make up your mind on your own, because once you do it, you don't undo it.
Can't undo it.
You can't undo it.
And I totally agree. I think this idea that we're taught, it's ingrained in us, however we want to think about it, that women's place or their true place or their best place is like in the home with the kids is great for some women, and it's not for others. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. I've worked with a lot of clients. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a clinical psychologist. So just to preface that, I mostly work with adolescents. I work with some adults, and I've worked with younger kids, and I've worked with kind of the whole gamut, to be honest, but I mostly focus on adolescents and families. But, you know, I've worked with thousands of clients over the last, I don't know, since I went to grad school, which was a long time ago. And I've worked with kids in foster care, a lot of kids in foster care, kids who were homeless. It's a horrible, especially the kids who were homeless, right? But even foster care, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I had to report abuse of a foster child after they were already either neglected or abused enough to get taken away from their families, right?
Yeah.
And I think so many people have children because they're supposed to have children, right? Mm-hmm. And then they don't have the capability to take care of them. They don't have the financial means to take care of them. They don't have the mental health stability to take care of them. And it's really, really sad. This judgment of women being selfish when they don't have kids, to me, it's the opposite. It's if you don't want kids, if you don't feel you're capable for whatever reason of taking care of those kids, even if you have the finances, right? Like some people have the finances to do it and they're still like, I don't think I'm capable of taking care of a child. Then don't, because what's going to happen is you get resentful of that kid, and kids know, they feel that, you know, and even if they don't end up homeless or in foster care, right? It still creates a lot of, it's like generational trauma.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And like, why would we not want to stop that cycle? You know? And I know a lot of women, whether they were clients or not, who got married when they were, 22, 25, because that's what you're supposed to do. Had kids because that's what you're supposed to do. And they take care of them, right? But they're miserable. They resent their kids. They resent not being able to pursue their dreams because their dreams weren't to have children. And so coming back to the article, right? This idea that every little girl's dream ought to be a wife and a mother is confining women to such a small piece of all the things that we are capable of.
It's like putting us in the Barbie box.
It's exactly like putting us in the Barbie box. Yeah.
Which I have a problem with.
Yeah.
I did not follow the path that was laid out for me as this is what you should do. Mm-hmm. Even though there was a part of me that really felt like I should follow that path. Yeah. There was a part of me that really thought, okay, I'm going to do what Lindsey's doing. I'm going to go all in academically and be in school for like 8 to 12 years and have degrees and be a professional and probably also be a mom and whatever. Like that was kind of the path that was
Right.
that I felt was expected of me as a young adult. That's not what happened at
Right.
all for me. I got offered an opportunity at a very young age to be a professional, and it led to a 20-year career that didn't require me to have a professional degree. And it also led me to being around people that were entrepreneurial, and I was able to be mentored and guided by a variety of adults, because I was like in my early 20s and working with people who were mostly in their late 30s and early 40s. So I was observing their behaviors and seeing what they had done. And I started adjusting that path. And I watched my friends, I watched you, I watched several of our peers, go on and get degrees and move into professional careers and get married and have kids and do all the things. And I'm over here like, I'm playing DJ for a little bit longer. Hey guys, it's Mandee. I love Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. And one of the things I love the most is they're always doing new things. And I recently tried their new sports massage, and I've got to tell you, it's incredible. So, I'm active and I'm always focused on wellness. And this is just one more thing that I am adding in to my routine because now I'm hooked. They use the Theragun, which of course is going to help increase blood flow to certain areas and muscles that might be sore or tired or need attention. But you also get to add on another upgrade. Whenever I was there, I chose to go ahead and do the cup gliding as well as the hot stones. They work really well with the Theragun, maybe like a triple threat. Definitely ask for it the next time you go in to Hand and Stone. Ask about the sports massage. You can book your appointment today online at handandstonetyler.com, or you can stop by and see them. They're located in South Tyler in the Cumberland Shopping Center.
I'm not a rule breaker. I'm very much a rule follower.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the thing, right? I went to college and then I went to grad school and then I kept doing grad school. But at some point, and I'm not sure when that point was, but at some point, I got off the path of what was expected in the sense that I didn't find a husband. And, I think there's still, well, I know because it's been told to me fairly recently that there are still people who feel that I shouldn't have been so educated as a female, that makes men not want to be with me, that I've missed my window. And it's a really challenging thing to be like, wow, I did all this work and I did all the things I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still telling me it's not enough.
That you're not enough.
That I'm not enough. And that I failed. I spend every day like trying to help people and like trying to make the world better. That is literally what I do. And I'm still getting this message. Coming back to the article, it's the same message, right?
Yeah.
That I am a failure because I'm not married and I don't have kids. And I think it's unfair to not just me, right? Like, I'm fine. I can handle it.
I was about to say, I know that you don't feel like you're a failure.
I don't feel like I'm a failure professionally, certainly, but I definitely have times where I feel like, what did I do wrong? How did I screw this up? It's painful when society views you in a certain way. And even sometimes I think like there are clients that I work, not really my adolescent clients, but sometimes their parents, when I'm teaching them parenting skills, who will sometimes be like, well, you don't even have kids. And it's like, well, but I do know how to do this. I do have all this expertise.
And I have had success with teaching these skills to children.
to hundreds of people, right? And I don't think they mean it. And I don't think it's meant to be like a slight. It's like, well, do you really know? And so there's this question of like, for me, a lot of times it feels like this question of womanhood. Am I fulfilling my role as a woman
in society?
And I can pull back and be like, yeah, I am. I am a really awesome woman in society, right? But that's when I'm having confident days. And I don't always have confident days.
But that's because we're humans. I mean,
yeah.
same. Yeah. I mean, I go through the same things. And, you know, like in society, so to speak, like I volunteer with a large group of women that's pretty diverse. It's an incredible organization that I joined a couple of years ago.
Right.
I've been blown away by it, and also blown away by the fact that I haven't felt those projected feelings of what you're describing from this group of women that is mostly moms. Some of them stay at home. A lot of them work in addition to serving in this organization, but I've not felt judged or pushed aside or segmented in any kind of way because I don't have children. I was nervous about that whenever I joined, but it's never been an issue. I think
that's great. Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head with something when you said they're non-judgmental.
Yeah.
And I really feel like, man, what a better world we would live in if everybody could try to take a non-judgmental stance and let people live their lives the way that they see fit.
Appreciate the value that they do offer.
Appreciate the value that they do offer. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Appreciate who they are outside of, or even because of, what a great mom they are, what a great wife they are, you know, like appreciate versus judge.
Yes.
And I think, gosh, wouldn't the world be better?
Yeah. Even that's just small shifts, you know?
Right. And if people could shift to that, what are people doing right? Because here's the thing about humans is we all have our shortcomings.
Oh, yes.
All of us.
Oh,
even
yes.
the people who seem so amazing, whatever, we all have our shortcomings. But wow, what if we just celebrated the amazing things, you know, celebrated the ways in which we are strong and smart and talented and encouraged and nourished those aspects in all people. I think with this article, I know I keep coming back to it. It brought up a lot for me seeing that, because I was like, wow, just like really it's sexism, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because nobody has ever been like, oh, Leonardo DiCaprio is so selfish because he's not married and hasn't had children.
And he's 50. He's 50.
Yeah.
Or will be. He'll be 50 in November. His birthday's in November.
George Clooney was like worshipped, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't get married until he was probably 50, or I don't know how old he was.
Do they have children? I don't think they do.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And so nobody's putting
that pressure on men
worth on their marriages and their children. But yet women are in this sort of bind of, well, we need to go to school and we need to have a career and we need to be strong, independent women, but also we need to be nurturing, and also we need to be a caretaker of the house, and also we need to be a wife and a mother and.
Yeah. I am curious to wonder what goes through guys' minds. Like, just for like devil's advocate here, because I feel all those pressures too, Lindsey. I'm not discounting what you just said at all. Don't misunderstand that. They have to have different pressures that we're unaware of.
I think a lot of men still feel the pressure to be the breadwinner.
I would agree.
The person who's the head of the household, like making decisions, taking care, like providing. I think that's I think a lot of men feel pressure there in a way that maybe women don't, although I think we're kind of getting that pressure too. So I don't know. But you're right. Well, I'm not inside a man's head, so I don't.
Well, I think all the things that you named are accurate because they do feel those pressures and we feel the pressures that we feel. Then we end up stuck in these roles where if we're not communicating about actually what our strengths in a relationship are as humans, as individuals, take the gender out of it, like what are you good at?
Right.
If you're not having that kind of open communication, which most people don't, let's be honest, most people don't have this kind of conversation. I'm guilty of not having it in mine.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, then you just fall into these roles because it's what's quote unquote expected of you. And then it persists.
Right.
So, and I'm putting you on the spot here because we did not discuss this before. How would you suggest, because you do work in family therapy, I know not specifically marriages so much, but how would you suggest going about an open and honest communication of, hey, we're sort of becoming aware that we're stuck in these societal roles, but what are we actually good at?
Yeah. What are we actually good at? Because maybe those societal roles aren't actually where your strengths are.
Right. I'm not good at cleaning house. I'm not good at keeping up a house. I love a clean house. Do not misunderstand me. I love a clean house and I can make it happen. It is not something I enjoy doing.
Right. I will spend 14, 15 hours writing a grant or working on a treatment plan or like those sorts of things. I can spend all this time writing and making that really organized, but doing the like physical organization is not my strong suit at all. And there are times when I'm like, God, what kind of woman am I? But that's the problem. That's the problem, is that we've made that a female task when it doesn't need to be a female task. And getting back to your question. So in family therapy, we talk about lots of different things. Sometimes people have complementary roles where maybe they do just kind of, they meet society's expectations. And so the man does the outside work and the woman does the inside work or whatever. But sometimes that's not the case. And they're falling into it. And then they're miserable and they're mad at each other because you're not helping me with this. And so you actually do exactly like you said, you have a frank, open conversation about what you're good at. And you talk with a whole family. So let's say I have a whole family. Let's say I've got 2 parents, 2 kids, right? And I'm going to ask each person in the family, what's mom good at? What are the things that mom is really good at? And let's get all of their perspectives, including mom's, right? What's dad really good at? Let's get all their perspectives. What are the kids really good at? Get all their perspectives. And generally, they're going to kind of come up with the same things about like what strengths the different people have. And then based on those strengths, you can be like, mom, it doesn't seem like you're the most organized person, but you're really good at cooking. But in this family, for whatever reason, mom's the one that does all the cleaning and dad does the cooking. And then it's, then you don't have good food because dad actually doesn't really like to cook. And then the house isn't very organized because mom's not very good at organizing. Whatever it is, those are just like kind of silly examples. But what happens is, as a family, if you can be open and talk about, well, here are the things that I'm good at. And like, look, certain things have to happen. Somebody's got to take out the trash. Somebody's got to like do the basic things. And so there may be things that nobody wants to do. Like nobody wants to clean.
And
the
maybe
toilets.
you rotate it.
But you rotate it. So you make a plan that's agreed upon with the family on who's going to do what. And maybe it does rotate and maybe it doesn't. But you figure out, how do you complement one another so that these household tasks or even family tasks, right? It doesn't have to be in the household, get taken care of and people feel good about it.
Right.
But that's something, though, you can do. You can sit down with your spouse and your children and be like, we got to figure this out and talk and be non-judgmental. We're not going to go around and say what people are bad at, you know? We're going to go around and say, what are people's strengths? What do you want to do?
What do you like?
What do you like?
Yeah.
What do you feel like you're expected to do? And figure out what makes sense for your family.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of common sense.
Yeah.
Even like teams, like in a workplace. I feel like that is a great conversation to have as well. And I tend to default to that because, let me just be honest, that's where I feel most comfortable. I have always felt most comfortable in an academic or in a workplace setting. Family is not a place that I feel like I am strong in. So the structure of school and work for me are places that always felt comfortable because I had understood the expectations there. It was a little bit more consistent than what I was having at home.
Yeah, there's structure and there's a safety in that. There's a security in that. And
I found that in those places, I was very, very fortunate in school and in the workplace, in that most of my teachers and mentors did ask me those questions. And they allowed me to say, this is what I feel like I'm good at. I'm open to learning whatever you want me to learn.
Right.
This is what I feel I'm good at. And if we could play to that, I think I could work well for you.
Right.
And
that's how a family should work.
Yeah. And it worked.
Right. I spend so much time, especially with my teenagers, but also with my parents, if I'm being honest, talking about why it's so important to take a non-judgmental stance. Because at the end of the day, judgments make us angry, make us bitter, make us, they raise our negative emotions and do nothing for our positive emotions. And so if you can combine taking a non-judgmental stance with being mindful of positives, be aware and take note, write them down, do a gratitude journal, whatever you have to do, be aware of the positive things going on and work on reducing your judgments. That is going to help you feel so much better and be so much more empathetic, kinder, but also like help you regulate your own emotions and feel better.
I was about to say, be in a healthier mental state.
Right.
Have mental health.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not gonna solve your depression or anxiety if you've got a true like mental health problem, but it is something to help. Right? It does make it better. And people are generally happier when they practice gratitude and non-judgment. It's a practice. And I tell people this all the time because I'll get like, especially teenagers, be like, Lindsey, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like, And I'm not making fun of them. It's just like, this is what they'll say. You've never been depressed. You've never had anything bad.
Well, we said that when we were teenagers. You don't know what it's like.
You don't know what it's like,
Totally.
You've never had anything bad happen. Like, you're so happy all the time. And I'm like, right?
Yeah.
The reason I come across as happy and smiley is because I practice these skills. I practiced non-judgment when I was driving to work today, so I didn't get mad and be flustered when I get to work.
Right, because that's not helpful.
No, it's not helpful. I practice gratitude every morning, every night, and during the day. I practice doing things that make my mental health better. But it is not that I'm never sad. You know that because you're a really close friend, right?
Yeah.
It's not that I've never had mental health problems because I have.
Yeah. Everyone has.
Everyone has. Yeah.
Different degrees.
It's not that I'm just this naturally happy person that's just nothing's wrong in my life. It's not that.
Right.
It's that I work really hard to be positive and to be grateful and non-judgmental.
Yeah.
I work really hard to cultivate positive emotions. And if you want to be a person who is positive and makes people feel good, right? You have to do that. It's work. It's a practice and it's work.
Coming back to Taylor Swift, she's been in the news a lot since she started dating Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, because he's got a little bit of time off in his career, he's been hanging out with her on tour. And I think it's interesting, like, to kind of look at societal norms, even though she was featured in this article for being a failure. The roles that they were playing on stage very much fit like the society. I mean, he carried her off stage and he's like in a tux and she's in a white dress. I mean, so it's interesting to me that like they know.
Mm-hmm.
She very much understands that she's playing to that role on stage.
Well,
but she's aware of it. Like, it's a choice. She's choosing to do it because it's part of the story.
Yeah, it's a choice. And also I think what people miss a little bit is that just because we're not meeting all of society's expectations doesn't always mean people don't want that.
Right.
And that, don't judge people when actually you have no idea what their life is and what's going on.
Right.
And I think if we come back to thinking about the problems of how these societal norms like really impact people in a devastating way, I think there's many, right? And I've touched on some of them. Like, I think a lot of women who are infertile, for instance, feel so deeply scarred and hurt by the things that people say and that expectation that they literally can't meet. And that's unfair and sad. And in addition, I really do think, and maybe we can talk about this in a future episode, I really do think that a lot of this drives abuse in relationships and cycles that it's not always women, but it is most of the time women get stuck in with abusive partners, abusive husbands, what have you. And so I think that's something worth us spending more time talking about at some point.
I would like to dig into that because I can see it. And the interesting thing I hope we can explore is on the topic of abuse. Like, I feel like there's so many layers to that. I mean, there's physical abuse, which I think is where most people immediately think of, but there's emotional abuse. There's, toxic relationships that could be abusive or not necessarily abusive. Of course, there's narcissistic abuse. There's a lot that we could get into there.
Yes.
And I would like to talk more about that because I think oftentimes women are in those situations, and until someone gives them an example that feels close enough to home, they don't recognize it.
Right.
And until they recognize it, they can't do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Everyone around them can see it, but they can't see it until they feel seen or heard by maybe hearing a story or hearing someone call out a specific behavior that all of a sudden they're like, oh.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do. I think in the next month or so, I would love for you to come back and have that chat with me. Obviously, I always enjoy talking to you. We've been doing this for 30 some odd years at this point, but I love you. I value you. I appreciate you and all that you contribute as a woman. I think you are top notch.
Thanks, friend. I feel the exact same way about you.
Well, I very much appreciate that. And I look forward to chatting with you again soon. If someone's looking for an opportunity to connect a little bit more or just kind of be more mentally health aware, you do have some resources on social media that people can follow, right? On Instagram?
Yeah. So if you want to follow my nonprofit, I'm at the DBT Center Training Institute. I post a lot about mental health and those types of things. So on Facebook, we're just the DBT Center Training Institute. And on Instagram, it's DBT Center Training Institute. So feel free to give us a follow, give us a shout. Would love that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Lindsey. I know it's valuable and it's so appreciated.
It's a delight as always, my friend.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/celebratingwomenpodcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women podcast has been presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast. Hey guys, it's Mandee. Have you been struggling to lose those extra pounds? Oh, I know, I have totally been there. An extra, 15 to 20 pounds can totally creep up on you in perimenopause. Or at least it has with me, and I think I found it early. I hope it's not happening to you. But if it is, I've got the solution. You can lose up to 15 pounds in 8 days with an incredible product line that I found and I want to share with you. Get a custom product recommendation with a complimentary wellness screening in the show notes. Just click Zing with Mandee.